Hi, hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, we're going to discuss the 2015, or the Oscar-winning film for 2015, Spotlight. Starring Mark Ruffalo, I never pronounced his name right, Rachel McAdams, and of course Michael Keaton. Of course, this film, it's kind of like All the President's Men for the 21st century. I mean, in terms of what the movie is about. It doesn't go after any presidents, but it's about the Boston Globe reporters, or the Spotlight team. We just want to get into why it's called Spotlight. For some reason, it's called Spotlight. Who investigated the Catholic priest of the Boston Archdiocese who was covering up the child molesting priests in the Boston area. And the reason it's called Spotlight is because they shine the spotlight on a particular story and expose it. And it's an elite team of investigative reporters for Spotlight. It's one of the 4 reporters in the whole team. And it was headed by Michael Keaton's character. And the movie actually starts off back in the 1970s, which the priests there's one particular priest who got arrested for touching a boy, and what happened was, I wish they were shut up back then, and because they're ruining this video. Shut up! You're ruining my video. What's happening was, it's so loud, they're right outside the door. They're ruining or investigating the child molesting priests. And this one priest got arrested for touching a kid, and he was let go by the DA. He failed to prosecute because Boston is mostly a Catholic city, and the church, the Catholic Church is a big thing all over the world, not just in the United States. But Boston is one of the most Catholic cities in the United States, and they practically rule, Boston, pretty much. So when the Catholic priest was let go, and for many years, they found out that this priest was molesting boys for years and years and years, and nobody did anything about it. Well, now, in 2001, many years later, in 2001, the Boston Globe got a new editor-in-chief who came up from Miami, Florida. And he's looking at the old files, so okay, what do I want the Spotlight team? He eventually meets with other teams, like the Metro Division, Sports Division, whatever, in Boston. And he says, okay, let me see what type of story the Spotlight team is working on. And they're working on like a corruption story, which was what they originally was investigating. And the new editor says, okay, I want you to get off this story, because I think this story I found in the archives is a little bit better story for you guys to investigate. It's all going to try to this was all sold years ago. And he says, yeah, but I think there's more to it than that. And it says, and reluctantly, Michael Keaton says, okay, I investigate the story, see if there's any juice to it or not. So they're investigating this thing, and they find out that the priest who was arrested back in the 70s is still there in Boston, still molesting kids. And they've been finding more and more, eventually finding more victims, and they find the lawyer who's representing the victims, and he says, yeah, this stuff is still going on, and gives the reporters information about what's going on. Here's all the stuff they can give you. And he says, can you give me a name? Well, I have to ask them if they want to talk to you. Which eventually happens. And they find out more and more information about, yeah, this stuff is still going on. And Cardinal Law, who I should mention, was in the Spotlight movie, was played by Lou Carrió, who now, of course, at that time the movie came out, and now was it stars as the grandfather on Blue Bloods. So he's playing Cardinal Law in the Spotlight movie. And even though he's only in like 2 or 3 scenes of the whole film, and it says that Cardinal Law knew that this particular priest was molesting kids and it was being passed around through like and this stuff is still happening with child molesting priests. As soon as they get accused of something, of molesting a kid, they get moved on to another parish, or take leave, and then move to another, and then they transfer that priest to another parish, either in the United States or in Europe or in South America or Canada. They move them somewhere, and they get killed, and they move them like America. First they're in one place, Boston, and then the next minute they're in, let's say, Michigan, or the next time they're in, say, Mexico, and then they get killed again. They go to Europe, or Asia, or whatever. They move them around as soon as they get killed, and then eventually they have to throw them out, but they don't throw them out right away because they play merry-go-round around the world to keep these guys in the parish because so many people are joining the Catholic Church as priests. So they're finding all this information, all this more and more information is coming out, and then eventually the lawyer says, "Look, I filed court papers, and these papers are on record of what the Catholic Church was doing." And then they finally get the documents, and then the Boston Globe went to court and fought to get the records, and they found that they were already on the record, and so they got those documents, the copies of the documents, plus the original documents that the Boston Globe did, and they printed up everything, and they posted the documents online because they couldn't print everything in the paper, newspaper. And of course, when all that stuff was about to happen, 9/11 happens. That was before they were going to go over with the story. 9/11 happens, or the attack on 9/11, and so they had to delay the story until everything settles down. The tragedy, or the attack, I should say. Not so much it was a tragedy, yes, but it was also the attack on 9/11. So they delayed it for a couple more months, and when the Spotlight team was covering that story, the 9/11 story, then they went back covering the priests, and they went back to covering the priests, and then they found out that all the documents were on public record. So they got all the documents, like I mentioned earlier, and they wanted to beat out the Boston Herald, the competition in Boston, and they printed up everything, and they got data, and they didn't get as much feedback on it as they expected it would be. It wasn't unlike with the Washington Post, with Nixon, with Watergate. They got a whole bunch of backlash over it. They expected more of that, but what happened was they left the phone number of anybody who wants to call up to tell their stories or to tell what happened to them or so forth. Call up the Boston Globe and give them the number or the email address or whatnot. And the next day, when the story came out, they were deluged with calls. They thought they were going to get blasted by protests. People said, "Oh, you shouldn't pick on the Catholic Church," and yada yada yada. But they were getting phone calls from victims of these child molesting priests, and of course, then it became a huge story. And the Boston Globe actually won a Pulitzer Prize for this story of uncovering for the child molesting priests. And of course, eventually, Cardinal Law is still. I think he might have. I think at the time the movie came out in 2015, he was still practicing as a priest in Europe, in Rome, actually, which is ridiculous. He's all the way on Rome. And of course, the Catholic Church always comes out with stuff. So, it's only an American problem. Meanwhile, at the end of the movie, they list all these cities where priests have been accused of molesting kids. Not just in the United States, but Montreal, Canada, Toronto, Brazil, and all these other. Mexico was also pretty heavy Mexico and Brazil, who are also very big Catholic countries as well. And I'm not gonna say the United States, but this is cities, all countries all around the world who have problems with these child molesting priests, and the Catholic Church still covering them up. Of course, the reason why they had these priests getting away with all this stuff is because of the fact that they guilt you into everything. For what I know of the Catholic, I'm not Catholic, but for what I know of that is because they guilt you. So, if you don't let me molest you, you're going to go to hell. If you don't give me a blowjob, you're going to go to hell. And they guilt these poor kids. They don't know what the hell to do, so they get molested. They give the priests blowjobs and stuff, and it's the most disgusting stuff. And that's been going on with these priests. They say, "Oh, how come we don't pick on rabbis?" For some reason, they don't. It's probably the same reason as the Catholic Church, because the kids feel shame or guilt, or they get ostracized in their communities. But so far, as far as I know, it hasn't happened in here with the Catholic Church, but it happens more with the Jewish community being ostracized. And they do it in the Catholic Church a little bit of being ostracized, but not as bad as it is with the Jewish community. I know I was talking about the Jewish community, but with the Catholic Church, it's like they guilt you to death. So if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell, and that type of stupid nonsense with the Catholic Church, and they priests guilt them into allowing the priests to molest these kids, which is just ridiculous. But going back to I thought this movie, I just watched it for the first time last night, and the night before I'm recording this video, I'm posting it. I thought it was one of the best movies I have seen in a long, long time. It's one of the best movies I've seen since maybe Zero Dark 30. But the idea between Spotlight and Zero Dark 30 is that at least Spotlight won the Oscar for Best Picture. And Zero Dark 30 should have won as well, because it's the two most important movies that came out in the last 10 years. Spotlight and Zero Dark 30. And a little bit of trivia note that Spotlight actually broke a record for the fewest Oscar wins of an Oscar-winning film. It only won like 2 awards. One for the screenplay and for Best Picture. That's it. That's all it won. The previous record was like 3, and few movies won 3, including Rocky. Has won 3 Academy Awards in 1976. I should say 1977 awards for 1976. And there was another one that came on afterwards that also won just 3. And Spotlight won 2. So it actually broke a record for the fewest Oscar wins for an Oscar-winning movie. But I felt that not only Mark Ruffalo, who played the main reporter investigating this, should have won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, which he was nominated for, and Michael Keaton should have won. He was that damn good. And also, knowing that I mentioned Lou Cano from Blue Bloods being in this movie, playing Cardinal Law, for your Law and Order fans out there, Jamie Sheridan, who was on Law and Order Criminal Intent, plays one of the lawyer who represented the Catholic Church. Helped cover up the child molesting priests in Boston. And all these child molesting priests will all be in jail or hung, at the very least. But that's my own personal opinion. But it was ridiculous what was going on with these priests. And I'm glad that they had this movie, this documentary. I thought at first it was a documentary, but when I found out it was an actual film, and it won the Oscar for Best Picture a couple of years ago, it's worth watching. Believe me, the movie is worth watching. And it's definitely one of the best, like I said earlier, it's one of the best movies that came out in a long time. So let me review the movie Spotlight. Please click on the video, please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video to your Facebook pages. You can take all my reviews on my YouTube channel, RowdyC.com. There's over WDY, the letter C.com. There's a homepage to Rowdy Reviewer. Please see more. And please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.